family.
I've been very fortunate to grow up with the sport of tennis.
What happens when a 20-year-old tennis prodigy wins historic gold, stacks more than $1.5 million in prize money, and then makes a decision so emotional that it stops legends in their tracks? What happens when Christmas Eve turns into a moment that quietly rewrites the meaning of success in modern sports? What I'm about to tell you is not just a tennis story. It's a human story, the kind that sneaks up on you, grabs you by the heart, and refuses to let go. And the wildest part? This all unfolded while most of the world was busy wrapping gifts and arguing over holiday dinners. This is the Christmas Eve shock that left the tennis world stunned, emotional, and asking the same question: who exactly is Alex Eala becoming right before our eyes? December 24, 2025, Christmas Eve, a date usually reserved for family, food, and forced smiles in awkward group photos. But while the rest of the planet was slowing down, the tennis world was doing the exact opposite. Two announcements dropped within hours of each other, and neither had anything to do with rankings or match results. Together, they created a ripple effect so powerful that it reached from Manila to Munich, from casual fans to Hall of Fame legends. At the center of it all stood a young woman who has been climbing toward greatness in near silence, carrying a promise she made long before the cameras cared about her name. Before we go any further, let's pause for a second, because moments like this don't happen in isolation. Champions Tennis just crossed 1,000 subscribers. 1,000 real people decided this channel was worth their time, their attention, and their passion for the sport. That's not just a number, that's a community. You've debated, disagreed, predicted, celebrated, and suffered through matches together. And if this story proves anything, it's that we are just getting started. Because if this is the kind of moment we're witnessing now, the road ahead is going to be unforgettable. Now let's dive straight into the heart of the madness. To understand why this story hit so hard, you need to understand the era we're living in. Modern sports culture is obsessed with flexing. Every breakout star seems to follow the same script. First big payday, then the supercar reveal, the mansion tour, the luxury vacation, all carefully curated for social media. Success is loud now, flashy, predictable. Scroll long enough and it all blurs together. Another watch worth more than a house, another car with a bow on it, another caption about being blessed. That's why what Alex Eala did feels like a slap of cold water to the face. Fresh off the best year of her career, newly crowned Southeast Asian Games gold medalist, breakout star of the 2025 WTA season, Alex Eala earned approximately $1.65 million in prize money. And instead of turning that money into status symbols, she turned it into something far more powerful. She bought a house, a real one, a $1.65 million home, and then she handed the keys to her parents. Let that sit with you for a moment. No press conference, no sponsored Instagram post, no hashtags, no branding strategy, just a quiet transaction, and according to people close to the family, a Christmas morning filled with tears that didn't need cameras. A 20-year-old athlete at the peak of her earning potential took the biggest chunk of money she had ever made and used it to secure her parents' future. Not because it looked good, not because it was expected, but because it was promised. This wasn't a spontaneous, emotional splurge. This was years in the making. Sources close to the Eala family say Alex made this promise to herself back when her name meant nothing on the pro circuit. Back when she was grinding through junior tournaments, sleeping in budget hotels, counting expenses, and wondering if the dream would ever fully open its doors. She told herself that if she ever truly made it, the first thing she would do is take care of the people who sacrificed everything to get her there. Christmas Eve 2025 was the day she kept that promise. To understand why this matters so much, you have to understand what her parents Mike and Riza put on the line. Tennis is not a cheap dream. It's one of the most expensive sports on the planet. Coaching fees, travel, equipment, tournament entries, physios, nutrition, constant flights, constant hotels. There are no guarantees, no safety nets, no shortcuts. For every success story, there are hundreds that never break through. The Eala family didn't just support Alex's dream, they invested their lives in it, financially, emotionally, and mentally. They lived with uncertainty for years because they believed in her when the world had no reason to. So when Alex walked into their lives this Christmas with the deed to a house worth over $1.5 million, it wasn't just a gift. It was validation. It was proof that the sacrifices mattered. Proof that the early mornings, the long drives, the anxious moments in the stands were not wasted. It was their daughter saying, without words, "We did this together." For a lot of fans, that alone would have been enough to make this one of the most heartwarming stories of the year. But the tennis world didn't even have time to fully process the house before the second shockwave hit. Because just hours later, another name entered the conversation. A name that commands instant respect. A name that carries the weight of an entire era. Steffi Graf, 22 Grand Slam titles, former world number 1, the only woman in history to complete the Golden Slam, winning all 4 majors and Olympic gold in a single year. A player who defined dominance. A legend who has spent most of her post-retirement life far away from the spotlight, selective with her words, careful with her endorsements, and famously uninterested in hype. When Steffi Graf speaks, it's never accidental. And on Christmas Eve 2025, Steffi Graf spoke about Alex Eala, She called her the brightest diamond of the next generation. Not a bright talent, not one to watch, the brightest diamond. One sentence and suddenly the entire tennis world leaned forward. Because Graf doesn't exaggerate, she doesn't hand out compliments like souvenirs. When she singles someone out, it's because she sees something that goes beyond results and rankings. But even that wasn't the full story. Because this wasn't just a quote. Reports began emerging that Steffi Graf had committed to a long-term mentorship with Alex Eala. 5 years, not a guest appearance, not a ceremonial role, a real commitment, a genuine partnership between one of the greatest players in history and a 20-year-old from the Philippines who just used her prize money to buy her parents a home. And just like that, this story stopped being just heartwarming. It became historic. To understand how seismic this mentorship really is, you have to understand what Steffi Graf never does. Over the years, countless rising stars, sponsors, federations, and brands have tried to attach themselves to her legacy. Coaching offers, ambassador roles, symbolic partnerships, headline-grabbing appearances. Graf has said no to almost all of it. She has watched generations of players rise and fall from a distance, offering the occasional polite comment, never stepping fully back into the arena. So when reports confirmed that she wasn't just praising Alex Eala but committing to a 5-year mentorship, the tennis world didn't just react. It froze, because this wasn't nostalgia, this wasn't charity, this was intention. Legends don't invest 5 years of their lives unless they see a clear future. Graf didn't build her career on emotion. She built it on precision, discipline, and ruthless clarity. If she's stepping in now, it's because she sees a path, a timeline. A player whose ceiling hasn't even come into view yet. 5 years takes Alex Eala to 2030. Age 25, prime territory in women's tennis. The same window when Graf herself was untouchable. That detail alone tells you everything you need to know about how serious this is. We've seen what happens when legends align with rising champions. Boris Becker joining Novak Djokovic didn't just add trophies, it reshaped Novak's mentality. Ivan Lendl working with Andy Murray unlocked Grand Slam belief that had been missing for years. But Steffi Graf is different. She's not just a former champion. She's the blueprint, the standard, the reference point every all-court player is measured against. Her involvement doesn't just elevate technique, it reshapes identity. And the timing of all this makes it feel almost scripted. Just days before this Christmas Eve double shock, Alexandra Eala had already carved her name into history. The 33rd Southeast Asian Games in Thailand were supposed to be competitive, emotional, and tense. What they became was something else entirely. On the hard courts in Nonthaburi, Alex did what no Filipino woman had done in 26 years. She won gold in women's singles. The last time the Philippines stood on top of that podium was 1999. A quarter of a century of waiting ended with her racket raised in victory. The final against Thailand's Mananchea Sawinki was expected to be tight. Home crowd, host nation, momentum, pressure. On paper it looked like the kind of match that tests nerves more than skill. What actually happened was dominance. 6-1, 6-2. The scoreline tells part of the story but not the atmosphere. Alex moved like she owned the court. She dictated rallies, absorbed pressure, and dismantled belief point by point. Playing against a hostile crowd is one of the hardest challenges in sports. Noise is weaponized. Energy turns suffocating. Alex didn't shrink, she expanded. By the end, even Thai fans were applauding. That's not just winning, that's authority. And authority is what Graf recognizes better than anyone. Winning a regional title alone doesn't impress legends. Graf has seen hundreds of champions lift trophies that never translated globally. What she likely saw in Alex wasn't just the gold medal. It was composure, it was emotional control. It was a player who didn't rush, didn't panic, didn't need theatrics to feel powerful. Those qualities don't show up in stat sheets. They show up in moments where pressure is supposed to break you. Then came the house, and that detail matters more than most people realize. When Graf learned that Alex took her prize money and quietly bought her parents a home, she didn't just see generosity. She saw grounding, she saw perspective. She saw something incredibly rare in young superstars: emotional stability. A player who understands that tennis is important but not everything. That balance is what extends careers. That's what protects players from burnout, ego spirals, and identity collapse when things get tough. The 2025 season that funded that house wasn't a fluke. Alex Eala earned every dollar. This was the year she announced herself to the WTA Tour in a way analysts couldn't ignore. Her run to the Miami Open semifinals sent shockwaves through the draw. Miami isn't a soft tournament. It's stacked, it's brutal, it breaks young players who aren't ready. Alex wasn't supposed to go that far, she didn't care. She took down higher-ranked opponents with fearless shot selection and calm body language. No panic, no wide-eyed disbelief, just execution. She followed that up by winning her first WTA 125 title, proving she could close, not just surprise. At Matters, plenty of young players can produce one magical run. Very few can turn momentum into trophies. Alex did. She beat experienced tour veterans, players who had seen every trick in the book. And she didn't look overwhelmed. She looked patient, calculated, dangerous. While other young players were upgrading lifestyles, Alex was stacking wins and stacking savings. That's the detail most people missed until the house story broke. She wasn't distracted. She wasn't chasing validation. She was operating with a long-term plan. Tournament by tournament, paycheck by paycheck, all pointed toward a single goal that had nothing to do with her image. That kind of delayed gratification is terrifying for the rest of the tour, because it usually means the same discipline shows up in training, recovery, and match preparation. Now imagine combining that discipline with 5 years of Steffi Graf's guidance, technical adjustments, tactical awareness, mental resilience, pressure management. Graf knows exactly what it feels like to be labeled the one. She knows how expectations can suffocate or sharpen, and she knows how to teach a player to let pressure turn into fuel instead of fear. But make no mistake, this endorsement comes with weight. The brightest diamond isn't just praise, it's a spotlight. Every match in 2026 will be watched differently. Losses will be dissected. Wins will be measured against Graf's legacy. Cameras will search the player's box. Headlines will look for cracks. The hype machine will be relentless. And this is where Alex's story becomes truly fascinating. Because if there's one thing she has shown repeatedly, it's that she doesn't run from pressure. She walks straight into it. The Southeast Asian Games final wasn't just a match, it was a national moment. 26 years of waiting sat on her shoulders. She responded with clarity. The 2025 season wasn't just about talent, it was about consistency. The house wasn't just generosity, it was intention, and the mentorship isn't just opportunity, it's alignment. As the tennis world turns its eyes toward 2026 and the Australian Open looms closer, the narrative has shifted. Alex Eala is no longer a promising prospect. She's a focal point, a storyline, a test case for what happens when talent meets character, when humility meets endorsement, when a young athlete refuses to follow the script everyone expects. And this is where the story gets even bigger. Because what Alex represents now goes far beyond her own career. It reaches into an entire nation that has been waiting for this moment. For decades, the Philippines has waited for a tennis figure who could break through the global ceiling. Talented players came and went, regional success flashed briefly, but the leap to sustained international relevance always felt just out of reach. Tennis remained something people admired from afar, dominated by Europe, North America, and a handful of powerhouse nations. Alex Eala is changing that perception in real time. She's not just winning matches, she's shifting belief. Every time she steps on court now, she carries more than a racket, she carries possibility. That Southeast Asian Games gold wasn't just a medal, it was a signal flare. Millions of Filipinos watched her stand on top of the podium and realized something fundamental had changed. This wasn't luck. This wasn't a one-off miracle. This was a player who looked like she belonged on any court against any opponent anywhere in the world. And when news broke that Steffi Graf had chosen her as the brightest diamond of the next generation, that belief hardened into confidence. Legends don't co-sign illusions, they co-sign futures. The commercial and cultural ripple effects are already impossible to ignore. Alex Eala isn't just a tennis player anymore. She's becoming a symbol. Brands see it, federations feel it, young players notice it. That single sentence from Graf will end up on billboards, highlight reels, and marketing decks, but it works because it's authentic. Graf's reputation is too pristine to gamble on hype. She saw something real and the world trusts her eyes. As the 2026 season approaches, every journalist with a press badge is circling the same questions. Can Alex handle the pressure? Will the mentorship translate into Grand Slam results? Is the hype too much too soon? The Australian Open will be the first real test. Early rounds are traps, rust, nerves, opponents with nothing to lose. This is where expectations can either collapse a player or ignite them. If Alex builds momentum early, the draw could open, and suddenly the story shifts from promise to proof. If she stumbles, critics will rush in, eager to declare the hype premature. But that narrative ignores everything we already know about her. Alex Eala doesn't rise when things are comfortable. She rises when they matter. She did it in Thailand with a nation watching. She did it in Miami against players who were supposed to be too experienced for her. She did it throughout 2025 while quietly planning a gift that had nothing to do with headlines. Pressure doesn't scare her, it clarifies her. And now she has the greatest women's player of the Open era helping her navigate the mental battlefield that comes with being the one. Graf understands scrutiny. She lived under it for years. She knows how to separate noise from necessity, how to keep hunger alive after success, how to protect identity when the world starts projecting expectations onto you. That guidance alone is invaluable, especially for a young player stepping into a global spotlight. The 5-year timeline is what truly changes everything. This isn't about quick wins or short-term validation. This is about building something sustainable. By 2030, Alex will be 25, right in the heart of her physical and mental prime. If Graf's vision unfolds the way history suggests it can, we're not talking about one deep run. We're talking about an era, Grand Slam contention, possibly a world #1 ranking, a player who doesn't just participate in the sport but shapes it. The house she bought for her parents sends a message that resonates deeply inside the locker room. In a sport where distractions are everywhere, Alex has made it clear where her priorities lie. Family first, foundations first. That kind of character earns respect, and respect matters more than people admit. It affects crowds, it affects officials, it affects the energy around a player in tight moments. When people want to see you succeed, margins feel wider, points feel calmer, pressure feels lighter. There's also something profoundly emotional about the timing of all this. In a world that often feels cynical and transactional, this story arrived on Christmas Eve like a reminder of what sports can still be. A young woman honors her parents. A legend recognizes integrity. Hard work meets opportunity. Promises made are promises kept. That's why this story hit so hard. It's not just about tennis, it's about values. Alex Eala's journey is now entering a new phase. The breakout is over, the anonymity is gone. Every step forward will be documented. Every setback will be amplified, but if her past is any indication, she won't flinch. She understands something many athletes learn too late. Success doesn't come from chasing the spotlight, it comes from respecting the process. So as we move into 2026, remember this moment. Remember Christmas Eve 2025 as the night everything aligned. The gold medal still fresh, the house keys still warm, the legend's words still echoing. The brightest diamond isn't just shining because of talent. It's shining because of character, discipline, and clarity. Now I want to hear from you. What was your reaction when you heard Steffi Graf call Alex Eala the brightest diamond of the next generation? Does that kind of endorsement elevate a player, or does it add dangerous pressure? And if you were in Alex's position, would you have done the same for your parents? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This channel thrives on real tennis conversations. If this story moved you, inspired you, or gave you chills, hit that like button. It genuinely helps the channel grow. And if you're not subscribed to Champions Tennis yet, now is the time. We just hit 1,000 subscribers and the next milestone is already in sight. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what's shaping up to be one of the most exciting eras in tennis. Hug your family. Appreciate the people who helped you get where you are. And keep your eyes on the court because history isn't coming, it's already here. Alexandra Eala is no longer just a promise, she's a presence. The brightest diamond is shining and the world is about to see just how far that light can reach.